All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Chris, and this is my channel, Barn on 11970. As always, whether you're watching this live or you are watching this months later, I always appreciate anybody that wants to take the time to listen to what I have to say. And if you've never seen any of my videos before, hit subscribe, check out what I have to offer. And the only thing I ask is have an open mind. To me, that's the most important thing. When it comes to free thinking, free thought, it's all about having an open mind. Now, before I start this, I want to wait a minute or two so this way the people that said they were coming to watch this have the moment to check. I posted in the comments section of this video the link to my Google Plus page. So if you click on that link and watch it from the Google Plus page, you will have the ability to ask questions live during the show. The way you do that is when you see the live broadcast on the Google Plus events page, just click on it to open that up. And you'll see the new window pop open, and on the right-hand side, you'll have the ability to ask questions, make statements, whatever you want. You do have to have a Google Plus account. That's on, that's on Google and YouTube. That's not a requirement from my end. So what I'm first going to do is talk a little bit about this. I'm going to show a clip from another video, and then afterwards, I'm going to give my opinion of everything and what my belief is. Now, keep in mind, everybody has the right to their own opinions. When I mention things like this, when I see something that could potentially be life-changing, either good or bad, I like to at least present it, and then you could formulate your own opinion. That's one thing that today's society doesn't like to do. They like to pass an agenda or have one side of a story and don't let you get a chance to formulate your own opinion. They basically say, this is how it is, accept it. Okay, so with fair use, I can only show a portion of the clip of the video I'm about to show, but I want you guys to pay attention a little bit to it, and then afterwards, stick around. I'm going to give my opinion, and if there's any questions that people want to ask or make statements, you are more than welcome to. But like I said, keep in mind, what I'm going to say is just my opinion of this whole thing. So let's first go to the screen share so you can check this out. So I'm going to show a little bit of a clip. So give me a second. I'll organize that. All right, here we go. And I thank everybody for taking the time to want to listen to this, and hopefully we'll learn something together, because to me, information is very important. Okay, so now you should be seeing an image of a stump. Now, I watched this video. Now, the ironic part is I had another video that was basically the same thing, just from another channel. They took the video down. Now, that was a little strange because they had it up all week in the past week or so, and then today it was taken down. So I was able to find another one. It's the exact same thing, just with a different narrator. So you're going to hear a little bit of a narration. Now, the part that you're going to hear here in this part, they're going to talk about this saying it's magma. Now, they're not saying that's what formulated this, because obviously this is just the tree trunk in the grass. But that you'd have to watch the entire video, and I posted the link for the video in the comment section and in the description, so if you want to check it out, you can. But I want you to listen to a little bit of this clip, and then I'll go into my thoughts on this, because this is something that I feel could be very important. Well, let's just go and hit play, and then go from there.
I want to ask you what you see. A tree stump in the daisies. But I continue to claim that this is mesa that formed from a magmatic melt from the Earth's deeps about 200 million years ago. Do not believe me? And now, let me introduce to you. This is Devil's Tower, mesa, or so-called lacallis, that is formed from a magmatic melt from the Earth's deeps about 200 million years ago. At least this is how Wikipedia is telling us. And billions of people are believing that this is mesa, or lacallis, or mountain. Huh? Really? Let's come closer to our tree stump to look at his fantastically inexplicable columns. Let's look in Wikipedia once again. igneous rock is formed through the cooling and solidification of magma or lava. Huh? What a smart magmatic melt. He just stand and frozen in appearance of perfect hexagonal columns for 300 meters in the sky.
Okay, so we're going to stop it right there because, like I said, with fair use, I can only show a little bit, but I will post the link in, well, it is in the link in the description and in the comment section if you want to watch the whole video. It's about an hour and a half long, and I watched the whole thing. Now, as you could see the image on the screen here, you see Devil's Tower in the background, and then you also see a tree trunk. Now, do they look similar? Absolutely. Now, here's the thing I want to point out. That particular video came out on August 1st of this year, so about 2 weeks ago approximately. Currently, that video from this particular channel, I don't remember the other one because it was shut down, so I couldn't double check, but this one has almost 162,000 views in 2 weeks. I have 3 videos that are over 100,000. They've taken 2 years plus. So this is what I'm going to give as my opinion. Now, of course, yours can vary. You could research this. You could think any way you want. My channel is not about telling you how to think. My idea is to give my perspective. You will either resonate with it or you won't. But at least I'm giving you the option, especially if you've never heard of this before, because I've never heard of this before until a couple of days ago it was presented to me. Now, when I watched this, there are certain things that made sense. Like, for example, and I'll put the screen share back up again. Give me a second. Okay. You could see there are hexagonal shapes on Devil's Tower. Now, they tell you that this is a lava flow that flows upward and somehow froze in a perfect hexagonal shape, each column. They also now saying in this video that this is a potential tree, a gigantic tree, because right here, you could see there's a person climbing this. Now, obviously, none of us were there to witness this event, whether it was a giant tree that came crashing down or got chopped down. And we weren't there to see this lava flow that was going up in the air and made these patterns. Now, as far as the lava flow, to me, I mean, I'm obviously not a geologist, but if you've ever seen lava flow, and there are plenty of images, you could look all over the place because we still have volcanoes to this day. I mean, you could just go to Hawaii and other places around the planet. There are still flowing lava flows. Last I checked, I've never seen perfect hexagonal patterns with them. They tend to be very, you know, like just think of a mudslide, how it smears. So to me, I find that interesting. But on the other hand, as far as it being a giant tree, now watching the video in its entirety and watching it with an open mind, they're trying to say in this video, in a nutshell, that there were never mountains before, there were never rocks before, but these were trees that ended up petrified. Now, it's an interesting concept because, as you could see, the stump looks very similar to the mountain that you see in the background. So, is there a possibility that that could be a gigantic tree? Well, with anything, unless you could absolutely dismiss something or absolutely prove something, there is always the possibility. But the problems that I have with this, and again, this is my opinion, is there were a couple of things in the video where they contradict themselves, because they said at one part of the video in the beginning that the trees became petrified. Now, they were saying that they are a different type of trees and there were never any stones. Okay, that's a concept I can at least listen to. But later on in there, they talk about how they were drilling through limestone and they were mining it. So if there was never any stone, how could there have been limestone? So there's interesting things. And also, for those of you who've been following my channel for a while, I mean, I don't talk about this very often, but I work a lot with crystals. I even have petrified wood. I have a whole bucket full of it. They're saying that there were no stones ever that were in existence. And yet, if you look at crystals and stones, there are many different types of varieties. I mean, a quartz crystal does not grow from a tree. So what I really think we have to be very careful about is, I mean, I've said this, how many times have we seen things before on my videos where I try and spread something and it seems like it might be truthful, in my opinion, and it gets silenced? How many times have people said that, you know, they don't get the notifications, the thumbs up don't work, they can't share it, always problems. To me, when something just comes out, and as far as I'm concerned, all the people that I've heard from pretty much said in the beginning of August, because I can't see, I looked, I didn't see any videos older than or either mid to late July or early August. So that's of this year. For it to all of a sudden become viral, that to me sends up a red flag. Now, if you know anything about the fractal universe, or as they say, as above, so below, you will find similarities. But you also have to use your mind to think. And I almost made that mistake. When I watched that video, I was very tempted to say, wow, look at all this evidence that they're showing. The pictures look similar. And then I remembered something. An old Star Wars reference where they said, you know, don't trust your eyes, they can deceive you. And that's where we have to be careful, because logically, they're saying, for example, Devil's Tower, if it was a tree, they said it's one of the smaller trees. Now, if that was the case, then we have to ask, who cut them down? What did they use? Where did it go? Why did it end up in this situation? And you cannot just say, well, because I mean, if you see the picture of the stump and see the picture of the tower, they look very similar. Okay, you could take many things in life that look similar, and that doesn't mean they're the same thing. So we have to be very, very careful about that. So as far as I'm concerned, because there's another part in the video where they were talking about, because they said not all of these mountains were cut straight across. These are the ones they call mesas. But there were others where they said there was a nuclear blast in 1815. They said a nuclear war. Now, that is where my warning flag went up, and it did not fit right. As much as I saw this stuff and said, wow, that's very similar, I wanted to believe in it. A nuclear war in 1815 made me start to doubt what I was watching. Because, I mean, I can understand it if they said, well, it happened 10,000 years ago. Well, that'd be plenty of time to have things disappear or fade away or anything. You're talking 2 centuries ago. There's no evidence of any kind of technology that would allow that to happen. Now, is it impossible? Like I said, unless you could prove it or disprove it, there's always that possibility. But on that, I have to say, is highly unlikely. Not impossible, but highly unlikely. And the way people get led, because remember, how many times have I said on my videos, you have to think for yourself. No one person or one thing is going to be responsible for your choices. And what can happen is, they can guide you in a direction that you choose to go, making you think your free will is 100% going in the direction you want. It's like, for example, if you had a maze and you want to continue going straight down this one path and they don't want you to go down that path, well, if all of a sudden they set a fire, you could walk and turn a corner and all of a sudden see that fire and you'll say, oh, I can't go this way, there's a fire, you turn around. Well, that's your own free will that made you turn around, but they were the ones that caused the fire that stopped you. So my thing is, I cannot say whether this is 100% true, 100% false, or somewhere in between. But what we have to be careful about is, if something sounds too good to be true, if something seems just that obvious where it's pointed out, is it a potential agenda to push you in a different direction? the smoke and mirrors. Because remember, ladies and gentlemen, whether if this was a rock, a mountain, tree, it's not going to help us. Because if that was a tree 10,000 years ago or 200 years ago or whatever they're saying, how is that changing our lives right now? It will distract you from what's going on. And how many times have I said throughout my time on this channel is there are always going to be distractions to keep you and keep your eyes off the ball. So a person that uses their brain and they use it to the right capacity will look at things and question it and at least look into it. And remember, like I said, and we can do the politics in this. I pretty much know, everybody pretty much knows at this point, Hillary is a fraud. She's been in the system for too long. People give Donald Trump a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt because he's a new person. He's not into politics. He says things you want to hear, blah, blah, blah. But I've always said, be careful with just listening to him blindly. Because, like I've said in the past, if you have 99 pounds of ice cream and 1 pound of crap and you mix them together, what do you have? You have 100 pounds of crap. So when I watched this video, there were things that they said that made sense. I mean, a trunk and a mountain like this in the picture, they look similar. But does that necessarily mean they are one and the same? I cannot answer that. So because I cannot answer that, I cannot give a definitive answer. And what I'm seeing is a lot of people out of the blue, because like I said, if you look at these videos, they're only really, from what I've seen, only come out since August of this year. For people to all of a sudden be like, oh yeah, that's true, that's what it is. You cannot do that. I mean, you can, but be very careful. And Sunbeam Sting says, I'm glad you did this topic because you are well-spoken and smart. Well, thank you. I don't know how smart I am. I'm just one of those people. I wanted to believe this. Trust me when I say, when I first watched this video, and I saw that, and I felt like, wow, that hidden in plain sight moment, that there it is, right there for us, and we never saw it. I wanted to believe that. And then the more I watched it, the more I said, we have to be careful. Now, I'm not suggesting it's not a possibility. What I'm saying is, just because two things look similar does not make them to be the same thing. So, if you jump to conclusion because it sounds right, or because so many people are saying, oh, well, I saw that video, this is what it is, well, then are you potentially being led down a path that takes you away from what our original fight is all about? And that's true freedom. Whether that's a mountain or that's a tree does not help us become freer and separate us from corrupt governments, corrupt politicians, corrupt media, corrupt education, corrupt food, corrupt banks, and so on and so forth. Now, is that a beautiful thing to think about? That maybe they are mining this planet? Because obviously, we cut down trees. We know we do that. We dig up coal. We dig up oil. We dig up all different things. So yes, we are cutting up the planet. And it could have been done before. That is a possibility. But the problem I have with all of this stuff, and why so many people get depressed or frustrated or just give up, is there's so many different paths you can take. And unless you research something yourself, you have to go with your own gut, what feels right. And the problem with that is the devil doesn't appear as your enemy. He appears as your friend. And that is why, and I'm not talking about religion, I'm just saying in the sense that if you think of what the devil is, his name is Lucifer, light bearer, the bearer of light. Like that, I remember, I forget what movie it was, I think it was A Bronx Tale or Rumble in the Bronx or something like that, where one of the mafia people was telling his friend / protege that he keeps his friends close and his enemies closer. And when they see each other, they are very civil. And I've learned throughout my history here is there will be so many people that will pretend to be your friend, that will be very trusting and say, here, I want to help you. Here is some information. Just believe me because, look, I'm not making fun of you. I'm not hurting you. And you can get pushed down a hole that you should not be down. Now, again, I cannot say whether this is real or it's 100% crap. It might just be somewhere in between. But my friends, I know a lot of people that come to my channel and channels like this is because we're tired of the bull. We're tired of the lies. We're tired of being told what to do. We're tired of us being poor while they're getting wealthier, us losing our freedom while they can go do whatever they want and not be punished for it. You don't want to be led down different paths because it just sounds good. And trust me, I wanted to believe this. To me, saying that petrified trees turning into, there are no such thing as rocks, just does not register with me. It doesn't make sense. Now, again, because it doesn't make sense to me does not mean it's not accurate. But like I said, I have been dealing with crystals and stones for the past 4 or 5 years at this point. My backyard is covered with any kind of stone. I mean, I have quartz, I have malachite, I have obsidian, I have turquoise, I have, let's see, red and yellow jasper, I have, let's see, obsidian, I have kyanite, sodalite, lepidolite, selenite. I mean, all the stones you can imagine. Well, if there were no stones ever on the planet, where did these come from? Because we've seen petrified animals and we have seen petrified trees. I've never seen malachite come from a tree before. Things like obsidian come from lava flows. It's almost like a blackened glass, and you can have mahogany or snowflake obsidian. That comes from the lava. So right there, it turns into a stone-like object, but that's not a tree. So I know there are going to be people, we're almost grasping for straws because it's hard, because you can have, do you believe in God? Do you believe in flat earth? Do you believe in Illuminati? Do you believe in all these different things? There's so many different ways to go. And what I say is, belief is a very dangerous thing. Let me explain. Because when you have a belief, you will put your heart and soul into what resonates with you, to the point where you will not listen to alternatives or logic. And I know that because when I first started this channel, I was that way. You become stubborn. Why do you think there's so much hatred and arguing in this community? It's because you can have people at different levels with different beliefs, and instead of respecting each other's choices to have those beliefs, we try and hurt others in the process. That is another form of divide and conquer. So this, to me, whether it's true or not, takes our eye off the ball, divides, because there will be people that will say, oh, Chris, you're an idiot. This is 100% true. Or there'll be another half that will say, Chris, you're an idiot. How could you even talk about this? And we will get strangers who, if they met themselves on the streets, would probably be civil or at least not dangerous towards one another, start to fight one another. The problem is there are so many different possibilities. How do you know what's real other than what you feel is right, or the person you listen to, you trust? Because there are people who trust me in what I say. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to get 100% right, and my opinion might vary from yours. Like I said, I'm just getting new into the whole potential flat earth thing. Do you know how crazy that sounds to say the earth is potentially flat? And the videos that I've seen that make you question certain things. But my thing is, true science, true exploration should always be about checking all possibilities. So you can either eliminate them or confirm them. You could not do a complete examination by doing half an experiment and expect to find all the results. So, as crazy as something may sound, it's better to at least dismiss it because you've checked into it than to say, oh, that's crazy, or oh, that can't happen. How do you know? So, the video, I posted the link. If you want to watch it, please do. Watch it with an open mind. Because, like they say, your eyes will deceive you. If you know anything about the fractal universe, what is small will also appear larger. Infinitely. So yes, the Devil's Tower and that stump look very similar. But that doesn't mean they are necessarily the same thing. And even if they are, what can we do about what's already been done? That is not going to put food on our tables. That is not going to help the corrupt politicians. That is not going to stop the news media from lying to us, like you see in the video I did yesterday about the whole Donald Trump crowds and the Hillary Clinton crowds. To me, the more I think about this, the more I feel that even if this was 100% true, it's to get divide and conquer. Because there's no way to prove if it's true, and there's no way to prove it's false. So what you're going to have is you're going to have some of the people saying this is 100% bullshit. It can't happen. Then you're going to have other people say, oh, I totally believe that this is what it is. And then you're going to have a bunch of people in the middle. So what's going to happen? Everybody's going to fight one another. Everybody's going to ignore one another. Because if I say this is 100% fake and somebody watching me says it's 100% real, now they're not going to listen to me anymore. Because of one little situation. They might have agreed with everything else I've talked about. But if you have a belief system that is so one-sided, you can actually cut off ties from people based on one little thing. I mean, just imagine if you had a perfect guy or a perfect girl in your life, and they were perfect in every way except for one little silly thing. Let's say you didn't like the way they laughed. And you left that person because of that one little thing. Divide and conquer is one of the biggest ways to control the people. It is so good. It's repeatedly done to this day. And that's why, like, when you have to learn from your mistakes. I was very naive and very trusting in the beginning of making my channel, especially my other channel, Barn on 11967, which I shut down. And I thought because I tried to be as honest as possible, that everybody else was honest as possible. And I had that mistake with a lot of women in my life, in my past, where I thought because I was respectful towards women, that women would be respectful towards me. And sometimes you have to find out the hard way. So in my opinion, these things are at very best distractions. Because even if it's 100% true, what do we do with it? Because does that mean now? Because if you watch the video, you will see supposed tree stumps that are 100 times bigger than Devil's Tower. Now, if you ever watch Close Encounters of the Third Kind, that's Devil's Tower. It's huge. What kind of tools would be able to cut something like that? Because obviously that couldn't have been done by man. So does that mean they were aliens? See how it could get to different levels? Was it God? So if you are a religious person, I mean, think about it. The great deceiver is going to tell you everything that you need to hear. Now, I've made videos about questioning the videos from Earth, how they didn't look real. And people can come up with some logical things, and it can make sense. But what I say is trust your instincts. Because you have to learn to think for yourself. If you spend your whole life having others steer you in the direction that you think you need to go, you are basically basing your life on hoping the people you believe in or like or listen to are correct, are honest. And that's very dangerous because it could be easily taken advantage of. You can easily be guided. Remember this phrase, ladies and gentlemen. Drowning in good intention. So my video is probably not going to get 167,000 views like that other one. My video is not going to have the same conversations that the others will have. But I am not going to sit here, as much as when, like I said, when I watched that video, as much as I wanted to believe, because, you know, like they say, seeing is believing, and we know that to not be true these days. To me, it would be unethical for me to say that's a tree or that's not a tree. But I'm not afraid to question things. And the whole part where they talk about a nuclear war in 1815, I Googled nuclear war in 1815. Now, normally when you Google something that somebody talks about, you'll get even just a bunch of random sites that other people made. I found a total of 0. Now, you would think if something like a nuclear war happened in the 1800s, to the point where somebody points it out so nonchalantly in a video, in the middle of a video, just like, oh yeah, and by the way, there was a nuclear war and that dropped a lot of the trees. That's why some mountains are very pointy. You would think there would be other sites that would be talking about it. And I didn't find one. 200 years ago, it'd be very hard, because obviously if we had the ability to create nuclear weapons to the point where we had nuclear explosions, we would have had to have been very technologically advanced. Now, in the 1800s, I'm not sure when the first camera came out. I think it was around the mid to late 1800s, but plenty of people could have made paintings, artwork, anything that would have shown technology that could ultimately destroy the planet. Now, I am not a nuclear physicist, but from what I've experienced as far as knowledge when it comes to places like Chernobyl, if there is a nuclear incident, radiation lasts for hundreds of years. Now, again, I'm basing that on what I've been told, because I don't have the ability to research that, nor would I want to go in a radioactive place. And plus, I can't live for 100 years or so to confirm it anyway. Well, if we supposedly had a nuclear war to the point where it knocked down massive trees that are the size of the mountains that we see in our backgrounds, why is there no radiation still happening? Because they said in the video, they called the winter, there was a nuclear winter supposedly in 1816. That's not that long ago when it comes to history. I wish I knew the answers. I get people all the time that will send me messages and emails and everything and say, Chris, what do we do? It's hard to tell, because, like, for example, there are people talking about things like Project Bluebeam, where that was, and I learned that years ago, where they're going to fake an alien attack, or they are going to fake Jesus coming back. What if one of those two is true? What if they're both a lie? Who knows? It's almost like if you all of a sudden saw a person fly down from the sky claiming to be Jesus, there'd be millions of people getting down on their knees. And if you don't think so, watch a piece of toast that had the form of Jesus, and how many people will travel all over the world just to see a piece of toast. Just imagine if you saw your quote-unquote Lord and Savior coming down from the sky saying he's going to save the world. How do you know if that person is really who they claim they are? That can mess up your head. And I can understand why people give up on this stuff, why they get frustrated. But if you think of the ultimate keeping your eye on the ball scenario, what is it that we all want? Well, we don't want all of these laws. We don't want to be lied to by our governments. We don't want to be controlled by the few. So these other distractions, whether they are true or not, are going to make us forget about what's going on with the election, what they're still planning on doing. That's dangerous. So I know there are going to be people that are going to watch this and they're going to be disappointed. I'm sure people that are not watching it live will not watch very much of it, because they will say, oh, what? He's questioning it? I believe in it, so I can't listen to this person, and I could lose a lot of subscribers, but I don't care. If I lose people that are not willing to think for themselves and be able to question anything and everything, then they are still half asleep, still choosing to be willfully ignorant. And that's why, as much as, yes, would I love, when it comes to Donald Trump, would I love him to be everything that he says he is? Would I love the system to actually count and matter, and your votes actually count and things change for the better? I absolutely would. But I'm not going to sit there, as much as I agreed with a bunch of things he said, and he's better than Hillary. If he ultimately ends up just being not as evil, how is that good? I mean, if I said to you, I could either drown you to death or drown you half to death, well, most of you would probably pick, okay, drown me half to death. Now, is that better than drowning to death? Absolutely. Are you going to sit there excited, looking forward to the moment that I push your head under the water? No. People, it's all about uniting. And with all these different distractions, whether they are true or not, it's geared towards the people who will automatically dismiss it, the people who will automatically believe it, and then the people in between. Any of those means you're keeping your eyes off the ball, and you are letting the same thing happen over and over again, being distracted by looking over here while we do something over here. So I'm going to read a couple of questions and everything. People have made statements. I want to give the respect that they deserve and thank them for taking the time to leave a comment. And if you want to leave a comment, you have to have Google Plus. That's a YouTube thing. It's not me. The link to my event page is in the comment section. Just click on it. It'll bring you to the Google Plus page. Follow me once you're there, because I could send you invitations when I'm about to do my next live show, whenever that is. It's the first one I planned, I think probably ever, on this channel. But if you click on the live broadcast now, when you're on the event page, you can ask a question or make a statement. I just do it this way because I can control it better and see everything so I don't miss. So 777, and welcome. Thank you for taking the time to want to ask a question. He says, we have a giant jigsaw puzzle that is our past, only clues on how to solve. Does this piece or one of the pieces fit? Who knows, maybe one day truth will only be spoken. That pretty much says it. It's a giant jigsaw puzzle. We're never going to find out everything. I mean, I've mentioned before, and I'm sure many people know about this, and if you don't know it, you could check this out, that the Vatican has catacombs underneath the Vatican. Libraries of books for who knows how far back in time. Who knows what kind of information is in there. And you're not allowed to see it. You're not allowed to read it. Now, I can understand they could say, oh, well, this is a 500-year-old book. We don't want just anybody touching it. They could steal it. They could ruin it. They could damage it, whatever. But can't they make copies of it? I mean, in this day with computer technology, you're telling me they couldn't take some of the most important books and put them on an internet for all to see? And yet, how many people are storming the Vatican saying, we demand to see our history? What are they hiding? Why are we not allowed to see it? Isn't religion supposed to be all about love and trust and sharing? Seems kind of selfish and greedy, if you ask me. And I've seen so many channels where they'll say, I'm right. I'm going to fix things. I'm the next Jesus Christ or whatever. I'm your next savior. Well, you know what? If anybody claims to be something like that, that's vanity. That's not part of that God's plan, if you are religious in that sense. Because I don't believe in God in the sense of being a white-bearded man sitting on a cloud telling everybody he loves you but judging you if you eat meat on a Friday. I believe for every creation, there has to be a creator. So there has to be a creator to make a creation. What that is, I don't know. I can guess, I can speculate, but I've never met my creator. My creator, he or she or it, has never sat down with me and had a conversation. And as much as we want to believe things, because like they say, if you tell a lie long enough, it becomes the truth. There are very few things in life that we say we know, that we say we know it because somebody else fed it to us. I mean, I'll just give you a prime example of the earth being round or the earth being flat. Now, in the Dark Ages, people were saying all the time it was flat. So this is not the first time this has come up. But let me ask you this. Anybody out there that will roll their eyes and automatically dismiss something, have any of you left the planet and seen that it's actually a ball? You haven't. So what are you basing your information on? Well, supposed video cameras from other people and what you've been told. Now, as crazy as that sounds, think of it logically. You've never left the planet. So how can you prove that it's a ball or it's flat? You can make speculations, you can make guesses, you can make things that sound like it makes sense. But if you had your own rocket ship and you were able to leave the planet and you got far enough away to say, hey, look, that's a ball, well, then you'd have proof. But we base everything on what sounds right. And that's easily a way to manipulate people. Let's talk about religion. How many people believe in whatever God they want to believe in? And you have the right to do it. I'm not saying not to. If it makes you feel better, if it helps justify you doing good in life, then that's a good thing to hold on to. But unless you had your God, whoever or whatever that God is or gods are, unless you've had them sit down with you and say, hi, I just wanted to let you know I'm the God of butterflies. I saw you and I thought I'd have a conversation with you and share the whole reason why butterflies exist. Everything that you believe in has been what somebody else has told you. It's like a computer. A computer cannot think for itself. You cannot just take an empty shell of a computer, fill it with nothing, plug it in, and turn it on, and it thinks for itself. It has to be programmed. And it's only going to follow the programs that are presented to it. I mean, you can't type into a computer, and then it says, you know what? I don't feel like doing what you just told me. It doesn't have that option. If you say, I want to go to www.youtube and go to Barnon11970, the computer's not going to say, you know what? I don't think that's what I want to do. It has to do it. It's a program. And it's the same thing with our education system, with our news media, with our people that we supposedly trust. We trust people in government to take care of us, and yet nobody trusts them. And when somebody like myself and others question that, we're the ones that are labeled crazy, ridiculous. So, yes, this is a puzzle, but not every puzzle piece needs to be solved. And you don't need an entire puzzle to make an image. If this screenshot that you're seeing right now with the tree stump and my name and the words and everything, let's say that was a puzzle and it was 10,000 pieces. Now, if I didn't tell you that that existed and I hid all those pieces, first of all, most people would never even search for it. Every now and then you might hear, oh, I heard a rumor that there's this puzzle that exists. And once you acknowledge it, you could dismiss it, or you could say, you know what, I'm going to look for those pieces. And if they're scattered all over the place and I never told you where they were, good luck trying to find them. But let's say you, with all your research and everything, you find 90% of the puzzle pieces. Are you telling me with 90% you can't formulate pretty much what this picture is? And that's the thing. We're probably in certain circumstances, I don't know, brain freeze there, we're never going to have 100% of the picture. So you have to go what feels right. And when it goes to feeling, it's based on, well, do I like the person or people that I'm hearing this from? Do I get entertainment from the message? Or do I automatically dismiss it? Because, like, for example, a lot of my trolls, as much as they hate me, they cannot say I am 100% wrong. The reason that they say that is because they don't like me on a personal level for whatever reason. Nobody is 100% wrong. Nobody is 100% right. You can never listen to anybody and automatically dismiss them or automatically agree with them no matter what they say. And that's why I tell people this is a dangerous time when it comes to politics, because everybody's waving the Donald Trump flag and he's saying a few things that are not really setting right, but we dismiss it because why? We feel good when we talk about that person and we feel good about what they're trying to do. And that is the 1 pound of crap that will taint the 99 pounds of ice cream. And that's why I don't listen to people like Alex Jones and others that talk about reptilians. Now, are there reptilians in the world? I've never met one. So until I meet one, I cannot say either way. But if I never meet one, then that means even if there are reptilians, they've never affected me. They've never affected my world. And I've always said, in an infinite universe with infinite possibilities, your belief system will gear you towards the direction you wish to go. If you research things like the double slit experiment, it's proven that just by the fact of you observing something, you create your own reality. So if you want to believe there are reptilians, you could create them. And even if they do exist, well, if you want them so bad, you're giving off this energy. Was it any wonder you keep getting things that resonate with you to repeat and justify your truth and your belief? My thing is, if I don't want to be eaten by a shark, let's give an example. Let's say, because I live near the beach, and somebody says, you know what, we just heard in the news there's 5,000 sharks that all of a sudden came in this area, and if you go swimming, they'll eat you. And you could say, oh, well, I don't believe that, and go swimming, and you could potentially get eaten. But if I say, okay, what's the best way to never be eaten by a shark? Well, never going in the water. So you could create your own situation, and that's why I've said, even in nuclear wars, even in biblical floods, even within asteroid bombardments, starvation, all these different events, we've still survived. That's why I don't choose to live in fear. I will listen to things. I will listen to all possibilities, as crazy as they are, because the craziest thing might be the truthful thing, and it might not. You know, when you go to a doctor, you don't want to, if you say you have a problem and the doctor says, well, I'll check a few things, don't you want them to check everything until they find out not only what is wrong, but what isn't wrong? People are so afraid to fail. They don't see it as an opportunity. And you can create whatever world you want based on your belief system. So even if there are things like reptilians, doesn't mean they'll ever affect you unless you want them to. You can increase your vibration to the point where they're no longer on your radar and you're no longer on theirs. You know, I made the story about a video a long time ago that I talked about this whole concept of, you know, they want you in a lower vibration. Think of it like an eagle and a snake. A snake is something that has to live on the ground. I mean, you can climb trees, but let's assume the normal snake is just slithering on the ground. Now, that snake may want to try and eat that eagle. If that eagle's soaring above, even if it's in plain sight, snake can't do anything. Now, it can curse all it wants. It could threaten all it wants. But if he tricks you to land down, you're eaten. So what is the snake going to do? The snake is going to say to that eagle, if he wants that eagle to land, it's like, if he threatens him, the eagle's going to be like, okay, and fly away. Bribe him, he's not going to listen. But if all of a sudden that snake pretends to be the eagle's friend and builds his confidence, and then one day the snake says to the eagle, it's like, oh, look, I got you a present. And the eagle's flying around saying, well, you know, what is it? I was like, well, come in here. It's a nice shiny box. I have it for you. And the bird never had a problem with this snake and decides to land next to it. And the snake eats the bird. Trust your instincts. It's like I said, a lot of times people will be tricked by the very people they trust. And if somebody tells you they have the answers 100% correct, they are either selling you something or steering you down a path they want you to travel. And they will use our good-hearted nature, our naivety, because we don't know. Like I say with the gold and silver, I still believe in that. It doesn't mean it's going to necessarily happen, but I prepare just in case. Preparation is always good when you do it in advance. If you're on a sinking ship, you don't want to be pricing how much a life raft is going to be at that point. But if you have a life raft on your ship and you never use it, well, it's not a waste of money. That's how you have to think of these things. So we have a couple more questions. I want to make sure I read all of them. And my thing is, if anybody can learn anything about my channel, is to research everything and question everything. And if you have a belief system where your feelings automatically dismiss or automatically agree with something just because you like the person or like the message or it seems plausible, and you choose to shut off your logical part of your brain and dismiss everything that doesn't make sense, then the God within you, you've shut off the light. Be very careful about that, because that's why even when I had my times where I was angry or depressed or anything, I've heard people say all the time to all people around the world, oh, you're feeling sad, are you going through problems? Go to a counselor, go to somebody that can help you. Nobody knows you better than you. And until you believe in yourself and trust yourself, no matter whether it's Devil's Tower and a tree stump, whether it's gold and silver, whether it's reptilians, whether it's God or the devil, whatever it is, you will always be misled because you're basing it on somebody that you hope is helping you or is honest. And if you think about it, even in the religious sense, Satan wants to be God. So wouldn't he be arrogant enough to pretend to be God? Because if all of a sudden you got a knock on the door and a horned red beast with hoofs and a tail and a pitchfork said, hi, I'm the devil, come follow me, you're probably going to say no. But if another person knocks on the door and there's angel wings and a halo with a nice bright light with shining, and you hear the in the background, and say, come with me, my friend, I'm here to save you. What happens if that's really the devil? And that's where it could mess up your brain, because you're like, okay, who do I trust? You know who you trust? Yourself. So I will never say, believe me 100%. Do what I say. What I do is I share my thoughts, my experience. I'm not afraid to question things. And then you can formulate your own opinion. But until we all are on pretty much the same page and see that the ultimate goal is governments who are controlling us to the point where we'll eventually have another riot, another false flag, or another revolution. It's happened how many times in history? Because we keep taking our eyes off the ball for every little thing. So I know a lot of people are going to listen to these or see this title and they're going to go, oh, I was just hoping this person was going to say, yeah, the mountains are trees. Well, I'm not going to insult anybody that way. I'm not going to give people what they want to hear if I don't believe in it. Now, if I had proof, I absolutely would share it with you. I wish I had all the answers. I am trying so hard to find all the answers. But I will never sit there and say I have all the answers and just pretend. So that's why I will post the link, and it's already there. You could watch the video, and if you disagree, more power to you. If you agree with what I say, more power to you. But remember, you'll have one side of the story, another side of the story, and a lot of times it's somewhere in between. And if you follow anyone with blind faith, without question, you are setting yourself up for a very hard fall. So we got Jake Barkan says, I love your message, brother. Thank you. I always appreciate that, because my channel is, sometimes you just can't figure everything out. My biggest thing I want to instill in people is question things. Don't just listen. You like Donald Trump? That's fine, but listen to some of the things he says. You like Hillary Clinton? That's fine. Look at some of the things she's done. You cannot dismiss them, because you're just hurting yourself in the long run. Because if you ultimately think either Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton give a rat's ass about you, they'll tell you in front of a camera how much they love you and how much they need you, because they need your vote. They need your energy. They need you to stay in a lower vibration. They want you to dismiss things and not believe in them and not trust and think you have no power. They want you to believe in them to save the day for you. Be careful what you wish for. Right, the Sunbeam Sting says, thanks for this, Chris, but for me, it's more like a stop excavating plunder of the earth for oil, wood, and other resources. You're absolutely right. They're still doing that to this day, but yet we don't seem to have a problem with it. Don't we need oil to make our cars run? Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we have the ability to make battery-powered wind-powered, solar-paneled products, and yet we still have cars primarily running on fuel. Why do you think that's the case? It's because there are billion-dollar businesses and trillion-dollar businesses who are spending millions of dollars on politicians like Hillary Clinton and others. If you think Hillary Clinton's the only one, you're an idiot, because there's plenty on both sides. And if you think Donald Trump, because even Donald Trump's admitted that he's dealt with these people. He's been on the other side. He's been one of the people who donated. You don't think that there's favor for favor? You think that somebody's just going to bless their heart, say, I want to like send $1 million to a politician and not want anything in return? Then you're suggesting these people are angels. Good luck with that one. So yes, they are taking away the trees, and every tree they kill, that's one less bit of oxygen in the air. Every water they pollute, that's one less place to drink your water. For every chemical they spray on the food, another tainted meal. Another Fukushima that happens, more radiation, more problems. We seem to allow it. We're okay with it. We must be, because we don't stop them. So who's worse? The people that are stealing our resources, or the fact that we, the people, allow them to steal our resources? So who's ultimately ruining the planet? We could point the fingers to the people that are doing it because they're the ones doing it. But if we're not stopping them, we're just as bad. Because if you know anything about law, let's say you and 3 of your friends go out drinking. One of your friends gets into a fight with some person at the bar. All 3 of you are standing there. And the 2 of you are watching your friend beat the other guy up. Not doing anything about it. Everybody else is running away. It's just you guys in the bar now. And your friend is beating the living crap out of this one guy, and you 2 are standing there. And all of a sudden, your friend pulls out a gun, puts it to the guy's head, and pulls the trigger, kills him. Cops come and arrest you all. You 2 didn't do anything. You were just watching. But you know what? You're just as guilty in the court of law. Why? Because you didn't try and stop them. And this is the thing that people don't want to get. This is why so many people love Donald Trump. Why? Because they think he'll do everything that the majority of people are too lazy to do. And you're going to find out the hard way, yet again, that that's not going to happen. Would I wish it would happen? Do I want it to happen? Sure. You think it's going to happen? Why don't we have solar cars at this point? Why don't we have wind turbine engines? Why don't we have battery-operated cars as a regular thing at this point? We see all these movies from the 60s, 70s, and 80s about all these technologically advanced civilizations of Earth that are supposed to be in the late 90s to 2000s, flying cars and all this other stuff. What do we have that's new? Pokemon Go on your cell phone, so you can walk around freely. That's the new advancement. People got to start taking responsibility. This is why people are easily led, and it's sad because some of this stuff is true, but you may never believe it because it sounds crazy. Truth is stranger than fiction. All right, Tim Hart says giant trees is BS, and he posts a link. Again, unless you can absolutely prove it's BS and you were there to see that it's always been a mountain, you're speculating. I can understand that and appreciate that, and you have the right to do that. But you don't know if it's 100% bullshit. It could be. Stranger things have happened. But be careful. Jake Parkan says, it's already a given that history is and then he just does 3 dots, not exactly accurate. But I think those who would manipulate would use that knowledge to distract. Of course they would. That's what magicians are all about. You ever wonder why a magician needs a curtain and needs puffs of smoke? It's to distract you from what the trick that they're doing. It's look over here while we do something over there. And they make it look so real, people say, whoa, how did he do that? Or how did she do that? When you do this for long enough, you become very good at it. And there are lots of people that will be pretending to be your best friends and given the opportunity would stab you in the back because somebody paid him enough money to do it. Like they've said in all these mafia movies, it's usually your best friend that does you in because you trust them and you'll let them get close. You don't think there are smart people that know that? Why do you think these politicians, look how corrupt politicians are, and yet when they're out in the public, what are they doing? They're shaking your hands, they're smiling at you, they're waving at you, they're giving you all the speeches, they know exactly what to say, they get you to wave your flags, and when they go home, they can give two shits about you. But you like to believe that this person means it. Our fathers said the same thing, our grandfathers have said the same thing, our great-grandfathers have said the same thing, and yet here we are, still in the same places. You got to learn eventually. All right, we got Tim Hart says, okay, Michael Steinbacher explains those in pretty much of all forms of land masses. They were formed by large plasma or electric. And he gives it a link. Tim, I respect what you're saying, but unless this Michael Steinbacher was there, he can give you great formulas. He can make things that make sense. I mean, you could literally describe something that's not what it is and make it seem like it's plausible. So I'm not saying it's not true or it's not a possibility, but just because he explains it and it makes sense and it might make sense does not mean it's true. That's where we have to be careful. You have to not be afraid to question things. And if it's true, that's great. If he could prove it, if he was there, obviously we can't prove things. Like with history, if I lived 500 years ago and I was a king of England. Let's say I was the king of England. And I went to the king and queen of France. And I not only murdered them, but every single person for hundreds of miles. Killed them all. Nobody left. I can make up whatever story I want. Nobody alive to tell the tale. So 500 years later, you're reading the history books as me as the king, how the story went down that the king and queen of France came to attack me and I defended myself and we won the battle and we were heroes and everybody like, oh, that's history. Or is that his story? Think about it. And I know this is not what people want to hear because then it almost makes you have to go back to square one, and that is frustrating. But I'd rather go back to square one than be on the wrong path that leads you to nowhere. Because the further down a road you go that's the wrong road, the harder and longer it is to get back. Trust your instincts if something doesn't make sense. And even if you like somebody, don't be afraid to question. But be respectful, too. Like, some people may not agree with what I say, but if they're going to leave a comment that says, oh, you're an idiot, you're a jerk, and you're this, that, and you're insulting me, you're putting up a defense system. I'm not even going to dignify you with a response. So the whole trolling of everybody all over YouTube and all over the place, I mean, if you want to make your point, be an adult about it. How do you think we're all supposed to grow? How are we civilized if all we do is go all day online and anonymously, pretty much for the most part, insult and attack others? The vanity of some people in this world is absolutely amazing. All right, so Tim, I can see you're trying to convince me. I'll watch anything, but he says, just watch it, bro. Well worth your time and put the pieces together. Love what you're doing. I will absolutely watch it. But that doesn't mean, even if it makes sense, that it's true. That's where we have to be careful. That's why, like I say, I listen to this flat earth thing. It's a possibility. Does it sound crazy? It sure does. But if you think of it from a government's point of view, let's say, hypothetically, the earth has always been round. Now, I don't know either way because I've never left the planet. But let's just say I won the lottery. I won $5 billion in the lottery. I bought a rocket ship, left the planet, and said, holy shit, it is round. Let's just assume that's the case. I totally lost my train of thought. Okay. So what if I know about it, but then the government wants to try and dismiss people by calling them crazy? And they start the whole quote-unquote flat truther movement. Now, I'm not saying this is the case, but let's just say they did that. It's a government op, and they pay a bunch of people, or they hire a bunch of people to make up all these stories that sound very plausible, that make sense. And then you sit there and say, oh, I believe in this. And then all of a sudden, you're like, wait a minute. Look how crazy that person is. He believes in a flat earth. He's not fit to get a gun. He's not fit to be in office. We need to lock him up and throw away the key. It's very easy to dismiss people. If you can't murder them all the time, a lot of times you could humiliate them or insult them. So that you got to be careful, because they'll find ways to make you think you're crazy. And this is a crazy world that we live in. I mean, I'm sure a lot of us wish none of this stuff ever happened. When you see these things, it makes you frustrated, it makes you angry. At least it makes you question. It's the fact that you're here listening and questioning is a step that's above 90% of the people on this planet. Because 90% of this planet doesn't care. So the fact that you're even questioning things is the first step. But never follow anyone or anything blindly. Because even if I believe I'm 100% right, if it doesn't resonate with you, then it doesn't matter what I believe. And that's why I encourage people to think for themselves. There's nothing wrong with listening to other information, because that's how you learn. But just don't believe somebody when they say, this is how it is, believe me. And that's what we've been told by our politicians, by our media, by our schools, our whole lives. They've told us this is how it is. Don't question. When somebody says not to question, be very careful. Okay, so the next one, Jake Barkan. Politicians lie with the truth. Artists tell the truth with lies. Obi-Wan taught us about truth and point of view. Absolutely. It's the best way to trick somebody is to make them think you're their friend. You know how many people I've had over the years try and pretend to be my friend and try and be on my side? That was one of the reasons why I left my comic book channel, because they were people I actually used to help, I used to talk to, would pretend to be my friends, and they stabbed me in the back. To this day, they still think they're righteous. I could give two shits because I know what's truth, even if somebody tries to change it in a different way. And I can smell BS. What I do a lot of times is I let them believe they got one over on me. Let them think they're really that friend they wish they could be. Sometimes it pays to play dumb. But yeah, politicians, that's why they're always friendly. Why do you think it's only when they get caught when they're sorry for something? It's when they didn't realize the camera was still rolling, or somebody worked for them that they got disgruntled with, reported them. Because remember, there is no honor amongst thieves. Somebody will take plenty of money to do the wrong thing, but if somebody gets messed up in the process, they'll sell you out in a heartbeat. You cannot control this. You cannot contain it. The truth will eventually come out. But the beautiful thing is, each person's truth is going to be different. It's what you want to experience in your life. Whatever you believe in, put your passion in it, you will go in that direction. If you want to believe that that mountain is a tree, that's wonderful. What is it going to do for you now? And if it's not going to do anything, then is it that important to what we really are looking for? And that is a place where we can call each other humans and be free to live a life without control, to the point where you can't even breathe anymore. Each person's goals are going to be different. All right, Sunbeam Sting says, you are a true friend and thanks for everything. I will always support you, even if sometimes I don't agree with you. And that's great. I tell people all the time, you don't have to agree with me. That's fine. I don't want you to agree with me all the time if it does not resonate with you. But my channel will never be about telling people this is the way it is, this is what you have to believe. I give you the chance to make up your own mind by giving you different possibilities. When was the last time the media or a politician or the schools did that? You know, they in school, you're taught about the fact that, you know, America is such a great place, but yet look what we did to the Japanese during World War II, Japanese Americans in World War II, how we put them in internment camps. Look what we did to the Native American Indians. We slaughtered them. Even after we made treaties, peace treaties, we dishonored our peace treaties that we made with them and slaughtered millions of them to the point where it was almost genocide. Look what the Europeans did when they came over with the Mayans and the Aztecs and other different cultures, because they weren't as quote-unquote civilized. Throughout history, we've been nothing but warmongers, murdering and controlling and stealing. Is it any different now? The only difference is we have more technologically advanced weapons to steal and murder people with. It's still happening all over the world. I'm still waiting for somebody to point out a country that is the 100% utopia that we're looking for. It doesn't exist. Why? Because none of us care enough, because we'll accept what little bit that these leaders, quote unquote, these representatives will give us, and we thank them for the scraps. You know, they talk about how we can't feed the homeless, we can't help the poor, but yet they have no problem coming up with millions of dollars to go send to Iran, or to build another nuclear asylum, like a silo or whatever. They have no problem with that. When the politicians or a big corporation needs a bailout, they can come up with that money lickety-split. But if a mom and pop store goes out of business, oh, that's too bad. Sorry to hear that. And we don't have a problem with this stuff. Jobs are going overseas. All the economies throughout the world are all connected through the petrodollar, which is connected to the US dollar, which is based on basically a debt system. And when one falls, they all will fall. But you'll have people hating each other, wanting to fight one another, instead of realizing, you know what? You're not gay, you're not straight, you're not black, you're not white, you're human. Until we realize we're all human beings and we all have equal rights, nobody is better than me just because they have a lot more pieces of paper in their wallet or in their bank account than me. It doesn't make them better. It doesn't make them superior. It doesn't make them more human. And I find it insulting when a celebrity, a sports figure, a politician, or somebody of that stature calls us the common people or the regular people. What is common and regular about any one of us? We are all different. We are all unique. That makes us all special. If somebody's better because they have more paper in their pocket, that's a sad standard that we're living in, and we're supposed to be sophisticated and civilized. All right, so we got Jake Barkan says, you're right. Anything's possible, but you're on point usually if you go with your gut. I think this might have an air of possibility, but I also concur either way. It's of little importance as to the focal point of attention. Yes, that's what distraction is all about. Because if thousands or hundreds of years ago, these mountains were trees, well, they're already gone. So we can't do anything about it. We can't prove it because I haven't seen a 5,000 foot long chainsaw or the people that could have done it, because you'd have to have extreme technology to cut mountains. It doesn't mean it's impossible, but it's not affecting our present. So it's a nice fairy tale. It could be a nice, truthful part of our history, but it's history. There's nothing we could do about it at this point. But they're still, what are they doing? They're still cutting down all the trees. They're still digging up everything from the ground. What about all the fracking that they do? Destroying the water. We allow them to do it because some people get paid. Like they say, just doing my job. Until people change their point of view, we're doing it ourselves for a bunch of pieces of paper. That's the scam. All right, Jake Barkan says, people do not understand economics. The Fed calls the US dollar monetized debt. Well, you're right. People don't understand it, and I've been talking about it for years, and most people don't want to know about it because they think if they don't know about it, it won't affect them. You're going to find out the hard way how wrong that is. All right, so Jake, I see you asked a lot of questions. I always appreciate that. He says, it would serve us to stop looking so much for external confirmation. It's what we feel inside, and it's a Bronx Tale. Yes, that was the movie I was talking about earlier about the mafia guy keeping his friends close and his enemies closer. It's all within you. You're Dorothy. You have the power to go home all along. But the problem is we keep giving our energy to outside sources. We keep thinking some Superman or some savior is going to come and save us when it's ourselves. Throughout the millennia, how many times have they said, oh, Jesus is coming back this time. Oh, he's coming back this time. And if you see an image of Jesus come this year, does that mean it's really him? Or do you think it's somebody pretending to be him? Because you'll get down on your knees without question and obey. I'd be careful about that one. But it's your choice. All right, Jake Barkan says, I love good conversations. Thank you. And that's what we need more of. That's why I keep telling people, question authority. Question your politicians. Question your news media. They are entertainment. Since when is just because they said something? I mean, like I said, if you haven't seen the video I did yesterday, it shows that they'll take pictures, the news media will take pictures, close-up pictures of both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton for two different purposes. One, to hide the fact of how few people are at Hillary's, and to hide the fact of how many people are at Trump's. And then they can make up whatever story they want. And if you are not there to witness it, you have to take their word for being true. And yet we keep seeing time and time again they're not being truthful, and yet we still tune in. At least I don't. The only time I even watch that stuff now is when somebody points out a link or I happen to see it in a suggestion and it catches my eye and I want to say, all right, let's see what these idiots are saying now. Otherwise, I won't know about current events. And sometimes I believe that's a good thing, because the more of this garbage stuff and things that we have to talk about, the more it keeps us away from what we ultimately want, and that's to be free and be left alone. Jake says, on the quantum level, there's no such thing as separate anything. I love crystals. They're like an evolving stone. Now, everything comes from my belief system, everything comes from one thing, and that's the source of light. That's the source. That's creation. Now, does that mean that's the case? I don't know. I wasn't there in the beginning of time. And if it's infinite, that means there was never a beginning. Some questions we may never know. Some questions are irrelevant even if we do know. Because like I said, even if that mountain was a tree, it's not a tree anymore. What is it going to do for us to know it? I mean, yeah, it's nice to know we might have been lied to, but we can't do anything about it because it's already gone. And since none of us are stopping what they're doing now, what's the difference what they did then to what they're doing now? It's just on a smaller scale if it's true. And if it isn't, then it's just another distraction to say, hey, look over here while we do this over there. It's like Die Hard, I think either 3 or 4, with the one with, what's his name from the Avengers? I forget his name. The African-American guy. I'm sure somebody will tell me because you guys are much smarter than me when it comes to that stuff. But it was all about the bad guy was making John McClane go through all these riddles all over New York, and then ultimately said there was a bomb in his children's school. And what did that do? It got every police officer and every fire department and all the news media to focus on which school might be the one with the bomb. And while they distracted them, they were stealing all the gold out of the underground vaults. Look over here while we do something over here. So for something to go fairly viral out of the blue says to me, at the very least, even if it's true, it's saying, look over here. Be careful about that. And that's just my opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right. All right, Russell Hall says, the government is trying to invade the truther movement to spread disinformation. Of course, because that's divide and conquer. It also makes you doubt. It also will make you get frustrated. I mean, it worked on me on my other channel. I used to have Barn on 11967. And because I want to fight one of the YouTubers because of stupid stuff that they would do and antagonizing me. I mean, not for nothing, when you poke a bee's nest, don't be surprised you get stung. Don't blame the bees. And that's what even some of the trolls still say to this day. It's like, oh, you want to fight somebody? Yeah, 2012. And it wasn't because I woke up one day and said, I want to start a fight. I mean, on this channel, can you see one video where I try and instigate fights with somebody? And yet they want to base one scenario from one person on YouTube because they were poking at me enough to the point where they got a reaction from me, to the point where I was so stressed out, I wanted to fight the person. And that's their only argument? I mean, by their actions, you shall know them. The people that are saying all these things about me, you go on their channels, they have nothing but either videos that bash people or no content at all. And yet I have videos every day that are trying to help people. So, who's really the problem? But yeah, disinformation is the way to get divide and conquer. It's to get people to be distracted, because even if it's something truthful, if it takes your attention away from your main focus, well, then the job that has been served. All right, so we got 2 more questions, and I think we'll end it from there unless somebody asks another question. Jake Barkan says, this whole not knowing and everything being an ever-expanding mystery, the whole evolving and reinventing existence is what it's all about. We live in such an amazing and incredible moment. I could not agree more. And I've said this before in other videos. I really think that 2016 is going to have some kind of turning point. I really believe before this year is over, and I could be wrong because this is just a belief. And remember what I said about beliefs. They can be changed, but in my heart, I really believe there's going to be some kind of life-changing situation that's going to happen for the entire world, if not just for one country in America, the corporation, before this year is over. I really think before the election happens. I honestly think it would be before Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump actually ever get a live debate with one another, because there'd be no way Hillary would be able to do a debate with Donald Trump. Donald Trump would eat her alive. So I just have a feeling that something is going to happen. Now remember, something happening does not mean it's bad. And even if something's bad, does not mean that good can't come out of it. Because, you know, for every door to open, there has to be another door to close. You know, to find the love of your life, sometimes you have to be hurt by somebody who isn't going to be the love of your life. Yes, that's painful. But unless that door closes, you'll never have the other opportunity. I mean, for a forest to grow, if you have an old forest that's dying, it smothers everything out. It eventually keeps new plants from growing. That's sometimes in nature why fires start naturally. It burns the old dying trees to the ground. They fertilize the earth, and new trees can grow from it. So if you look at something always as scary, then you will only see the scary side. Not all fear or things to be afraid of is bad. Go on a roller coaster. It's scary, but it's fun. And if you view everything in a negative point of view, you will never, ever get to where you want to be. I mean, how many people since I've been doing this channel said, you know, they're going to assassinate you, they're going to murder you, you're talking about all this stuff. And there were times I would actually consider it, think about it. I even got death threats from people. There was one person that left this long email that impacted me for like a week and a half that said there was a contract out in my life. That was now, I think, like 5 months ago. And they said if I didn't pay them like $8,000 to $10,000, there's nothing they can do to stop it. Well, you know what? I'm still here because I don't give in to fear, because that means I'm that eagle that has allowed that snake to convince me to go down and talk to him, even if it's to start a fight. But now I'm within striking range. Rise above. So I don't know, Jake, when you wrote this, but he says, I feel the same way. I'm not sure what that's in reference to, but I'm glad you're resonating with whatever I said. He also says, I'd love enough people to be able to organize and just start to live and operate with each other and just make the current paradigm shift irrelevant. I feel like whether we fight it or ignore it, the issue is they still win. They still get our energy. They cannot take anything. Here's the truth from my belief system, and I'm basing it on my own experience. In a world of free will, to the point where they even have to mention it in the 13th Amendment when they talk about slavery as involuntary servitude. It's the same thing as free will. They could not force you to do anything. They can trick you. They can bribe you. They can convince you. But ultimately, you make the decision. Your energy is your energy. If you want to give it away because you say you have no other choice, or you're afraid, or whatever, they trick you, it's still ultimately your decision. So decide not to anymore. And the problem is we all worry about what everybody else does. And I'm the same way. I mean, I can't make videos unless I'm concerned about other people. But ultimately, if I had my real wish, I would shut this off and never turn this on ever again, because then I wouldn't have to focus on it. It wouldn't affect me anymore. Why I choose to do it is, I guess I have this complex in myself that has a need to want to help others. And maybe that helps me help myself. To fix a problem, you first have to understand there is a problem. And if you think there are not problems in the world, you're not paying attention. So they cannot get your energy unless you give it to them. And they're very good at making you think you have to give it to them. It's all a choice. Russell Hall says, check out Nick's speech from the movie Tomorrowland. Explains how the elite think about us. It's all on YouTube. Yeah, I saw that movie. Doesn't matter what the elites think of us. When was the last time an elitist knocked on your door? They probably never will. So if you're prepared, if you work for yourself, you don't have to worry about having a boss always telling you what to do. If you store food and water, it won't matter if the food places and restaurants stop. If you have enough money to the point where you bought supplies and you have gas and fuel and things. It doesn't matter if there's a storm that passes for a week and all of a sudden everything gets shut down. It's all about being prepared, self-sufficient. People that rely on others will eventually be disappointed. Why do you think there's so many people on welfare? They want millions of people dependent on the government because that's what justifies them to keep going. People that are used to getting free things all the time don't want the government to shut down. It's all controlling of the mind. It's all free will. It's all them making you think you have no choice, but you're doing it of your own free will. Jake Barkent says, I meant your feeling about big change. That's what I meant, though. We're doing it by consent. Yeah. There's, in my opinion, in my belief, there's a big change coming. I wish I knew what it was, but there's going to be something before this year's over, and I really think before this election, that's going to be life-changing. And for me, I'm not scared, and even if it's bad, it won't affect me, not in a negative way. I'm going to take a lemon and turn it into lemonade, and you should do that yourself, in my opinion. All right, this is the last question because I don't want to make this too long, and I really appreciate the amount of people, and of course, you know, I always go on rants and go on tangents and go off topic, but, you know, I'm going based on the questions and everything, and people seem to enjoy this, and if you do, share it, like it, all that other stuff. If you've never seen one of my videos before, check here. Just like I said, I'm not going to have the answer to everything. I'm not going to get everything right all the time, but at least I'm going to give the opportunity to give you alternative views and share my opinions that may be different from the mainstream. Because just because most people think in a certain way does not make them right. Most people are followers because of their own insecurities to ever be an individual that's strong enough to make their own decision. They have to follow others so they don't feel out of place. Those are not the people I want to listen to, even if it's the majority. So the last question is, all it takes for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. And we're going to leave it at that. That is so true. And that's the problem with this world. We are so busy pointing fingers at everybody else that we forget that we are responsible for what we choose to believe in, not believe in, what we choose to do, what we choose to not do, what we choose to participate in, and what we choose to ignore. We are ultimately responsible. And that's what it all boils down to. So I hope people will learn something from this. And again, my videos are never going to go viral because they actually make you think for yourself. They actually help you to expand your mind. Believe in yourself. Know that you are an infinite being with infinite possibilities. And if you choose to think there's only one road, don't be surprised that you're only going down one road. There's ultimate possibilities. You can always turn around. You can always go in a different direction. But you got to believe that you can. And believe it to the point it becomes your truth. And just because you believe it doesn't mean that's going to happen, because you may be even trying to convince yourself. So if you want to let evil thrive, then we can't really say that they're the ones doing it. You know, if somebody put a gun to your best friend's head, yes, it's bad if they pull the trigger, but if you could have stopped them and you didn't, then you're partially to blame. Because if you could have prevented it and you didn't do everything in your power to stop it, then it doesn't matter what the other person did. You didn't try and stop them. Participate. So thanks for listening. I'm sure this video is a little different than what you probably wanted to hear or expected to hear. But if you appreciate it, share it, thumb it up, all that other fun stuff. Leave your comments, hit subscribe, and let's be good to one another and stop listening to anyone other than yourself 100%. Be able to question, and if something doesn't resonate, figure out why you're not feeling that way and trust your perception. You have antennas that give you the power to do things that you will never understand until you figure out it's there. So happy hunting. Thanks for listening, and I hope you all have a great night.